Yeah, and
we're all ready.
Was good, was it?
Yeah. Sally, actually, yeah. Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hi.
So, as we all went off to do some research for our ideas for our 10th anniversary, so we can go through, and I hope we've all... A friend and I used to do a lot of markets, and we took part in other arts trails, and we always said, why is there nothing like this in Catford? And we said that for a while, and then I saw a message on Facebook from someone who'd moved into the area who was interested in why there wasn't an activity or some sort of open studio in Catford. So we contacted her, and between the three of us and a couple of other people that we roped in to help, we said, okay, shall we do this? We were really surprised how many artists were just hiding behind those doors in Catford. Because we'd been involved in other local arts trails, we knew the format, and we lifted some ideas from all the other ones that we'd been to and things that we'd been involved in, and we managed to put together our first year in 2016.
I've been playing with clay and creating since I was a child, and I had quite a creative career. I was a homeware buyer, so I worked with the designers, I would product develop products, so that was creative. But at that point I then wanted to get making again, so I did some evening classes in pottery when I first moved to London. It's definitely what attracted me to it, is that you're making something from nothing. The first thing you do is wedge it to get the air out of the clay. Once you're on the wheel, you then have to go through the process of centering the clay, and that's sort of coning the clay up and down to get it all right in the center of the wheel. Generally, most shapes start as a cylinder, and then from there you can flare it out wider for a bowl, or keep going higher, put some shape into it for mugs, plant pots, vases, anything else. I'm constantly learning with the pottery, and I'm constantly improving, and I'll have some bad days where I can't hardly throw anything, it seems, and then other days where I can knock out loads of stuff.
I know it was an awful time, COVID, but for me it worked very well. Like many people, I thought the lockdown, it's only going to last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks at the most. So I'm going to do a drawing every day, like an illustration. So on the very first day, I had me doing exercise during COVID, and I was on a space hopper, just bouncing in the front room. So I started doing these illustrations, and then before I knew it, because it was dragging on and on, it became a project called 100 Days of Dave, because it lasted 3 months. I've not had any formal training. I was offered a place at art school when I was 16, to do a foundation, and unfortunately I couldn't take it up because of my home circumstances. So unfortunately I went in a different direction and ended up doing engineering. I made the leap into embroidery by deciding one day I was getting bored with doing the illustrations. I decided to do an embroidery of myself sitting on the sofa with no clothes on, because I don't think many people were bothering getting dressed during lockdown. My work could be considered camp, I guess. It's very different, so it appeals to certain people. One I'm working on at the moment is a Rastafarian riding a Lime bike. So I thought I'd do a Lime bike because it's very much of the moment, so people will know when it was done.
I absolutely just love creating artwork. If I find a bit of timber that looks like a kind of a body, then what I do is I chip off all the old bits of wood, fill it with wood filler, some areas so I've got some sort of smooth area to paint on, sand it down, and then just paint on top of it. And they're usually kind of like these sort of like figures. So I'm starting to make this kind of army of these kind of like dolls. I'm a landscape gardener by trade. Some of that's not as creative as I'd like it to be, but I do garden design and I love being outdoors. Also, in fact, a lot of leaves and gardening, sort of flowers and stuff come up in my work quite a lot. When I was about 15, I was on a French exchange, had a really sort of chance encounter with Andy Warhol. He was in front of me on the escalators of the Pompidou Centre in Paris. It looks like I'm looking at his hair. That was one of the last pictures taken with him, and that's kind of like spurred me on to be an artist. I do have really successful paintings that sell, and I know that I could do that again and it would sell, but if I was churning out the same thing, then that would become a chore. So it's really exciting when I do a completely different painting, a completely different subject, and that goes down well. I do a lot of painting over. Because my works, I do it quite quickly. I'm normally flitting about and I do it sort of quite sporadically. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I do little bits and pieces. So it's very rare I'll work on a piece solidly and just do that one piece.
Now, is this going to balance, is the question. The thing about my sculptures is it's very like drawing. It's a really interesting way of looking closely at things that would otherwise be overlooked by people and trying to bring them back to life. I don't know whether this is going to support its weight at the moment. I get my ideas from the objects themselves, so I think that there's two aspects to that. One is that we live in a ridiculous consumer society. Things get used, they get thrown away, they have no value after a certain amount of time, and it's killing the planet. It's sort of a totem pole, isn't it? And then it's finding the objects, sitting with them, looking at them, thinking, where does that go? Where does it take me? What do I combine with that to produce something new and different? I've been painting and drawing all my life, really. I was a very nerdy, quite sickly young boy, and I drew from my imagination all the time. What my parents call monsters with felt tip pens, and I think there's still a connection between what those look like, the masks I buy, the masks I make, the sculptures I make, the kind of faces that are there but not quite there.
I've always wanted to make things, but I also really like teaching. So I ended up, I did art at school, but I ended up going and doing a degree and then teacher training, and was a primary school teacher. But then in my spare time, I would do so many courses. I have tried just about everything, and I would always get bored. One day, in my lunch hour from my government job, I wandered around the streets and I found a mosaic shop. And the tiles were in the window in sweetie jars. And literally, I was like a kid in a sweet shop. I went into that shop, I looked at all those colours, I looked at some of the examples, and I thought, I'm going to have a go at that. So from then, for a couple of years, I would go in my lunch hour, get great big bags of heavy tiles, lug them home on the train, and make mosaics. Sometimes I do make things because I know I've got an exhibition or an event coming up. I will make something that I know will have general appeal. So I will do something about cats, I will do something about dogs, I will do something about loving the garden and loving the seaside and things like that. And I do themed things like that. But then often I'll just have a bit of fun making something for me. I don't really mind lots of people not liking something I've made. It's absolutely fine, because I don't like everything everybody else makes, and who am I to judge? But I think it's really funny when I've made something that I think is funny or fun or interesting, and then someone, it only takes one person to come in and see the same thing as you, and they love it. And that's what I want. I want that one person who loves it, not someone who just goes, oh, that'll match my curtains. I just think it's such a shame that the world thinks that art is just painting and drawing, really. I think everybody is creative, but it's not drawn out of them, or it isn't recognised, maybe. I moved here in 1993, and I'm now on my third house in Catford. It's the sort of place that when you mention it to someone who doesn't live here, there's a look on their face.
When I moved here, I said, well, it's full of pound shops and crazy people. And that's still partly true, but I think there's an energy about it. I love the fact that it feels real London, and it's got that diversity and openness and tolerance.
I love it here. I wouldn't live anywhere else, really. I like that it's slightly edgy and a bit rough around the edges.
We've got a real concentrated bunch of artists in Catford that makes it really, really special. I'm a jewellery artist, and it's very much a passion, and I really love just being able to be in my studio and have a blank mind, and then just suddenly kind of just start to create. So I don't necessarily always have a plan of what I'm going to do. It just sort of comes to me, and I then sort of build on that. I started my professional life in musical theatre, and worked for about 15 years in the theatre, then had children. Then, like my dad always used to say, are you going to get a proper job? And so I started working for a jeweller's in Greenwich, where I just suddenly found that I really loved jewellery, wearing it, what it meant. And they allowed me to go and study at the Metropolitan University. My style is linked to an angel always being behind you and an angel touching you. It's basically my rebellion against religion. My ideas come from sort of body parts and recycling materials. Mainly I like to look at china, old dolls that have been dug up out of the ground. I have probably a fascination with the macabre, but if people looked at my work to buy, they wouldn't necessarily see that. I used to cut up Barbies, and I did a piece of Barbie's boobs in a sacred heart basically, and I would never part with. That was one of my pieces that I love, and I have had people offer me money for it, but it's still sat in this workshop somewhere.
I was born in Barbados in 1955. I came over here in 1965. And when I was a kid in Barbados, even when I was a little boy, I remember I used to walk around with a hammer and saw and nails. And I was always knocking things together, bits of wood, just making things. So I've always been using wood from a kid. I worked in construction for over 40 years. Wherever you look, there's waste material in abundance. I built my first shed when I first moved to this house 28 years ago. There's a movement in Italy where all the poor artists who didn't have money to buy their artist equipment, they start making art from everyday objects, and it was called arte povera. So I've adopted the povera because povera, it means poor art. I would say my shed is a she, and she needs my attention, and she's always got something for me to do. It's built around two trees, like as if the shed is literally hugging the trees. It's my way of interacting with nature. I've got 40 years worth of art in the shed. Present stuff and old stuff. It's a accumulation of all of my work. This is my woman. She's like a warrior. She's not your normal average woman. You know, she's the type of woman that you don't mess around with. This is a piece that I did for the anniversary of slavery, and this piece is called Trapped. I like to use different layers. It's all to do with layers because it gives it volume and it gives it depth. And I like to give the impression that you can actually lose yourself into the work. Once I've started that piece, it takes me on a journey, and I'm just enjoying it and just having fun. It's a bit like a relationship. Like when it's new, you love it. You can't get enough of it. But then you get to the stage where you get fed up, you get bored, and you walk away, and you start another piece, and then the journey continues. My family, I think they love what I do, but sometimes they do think I'm bonkers. I look at it this way: to be creative, sometimes you have to be a bit selfish, and sometimes your family don't understand that part. Because if I wasn't selfish, nothing would be done. So sometimes I've got to cut myself off, go into my little box, and just do what I've got to do.
Whilst I'm creative, there are many people who are way more talented than me and perhaps have much more original ideas, which is possibly why I went to something kind of lampshades and cushions, because there's a structure around that. You stick the fabric to the back of the vinyl, and then you have two rings which provide the frame. So you put some adhesive on the two rings, and then you would roll the fabric around the rings. I'm born in a big family, there's 5 of us, And we travelled quite a lot as children because my dad was in the army, and then all of us were away at boarding school as children. We settled in the UK in the late 60s, and my parents built a home for themselves there. And having lived in an army life where everything was provided, you know, in terms of furniture and cutlery and crockery and all of that kind of stuff, I think the only way that you could personalise it was to put photographs and things like art on the wall, because every time you moved you could take that with you. Catford people love quirky, so they love the idea of a cat shade or something that's a bit out there.
Things that I love creating are items like my necklace that I'm modelling right now. They take forever to make because it's all hand stitched. I create lots of different things because in my little head, it's like a little kind of mood board up there, and ideas are always flowing, and sometimes I find it difficult to kind of translate that directly onto paper. A lot of my inspiration is from origami. This was one of the ideas that I came up with, was to create a flower, and you can imagine like the precision in paper, trying to translate that into a brooch. So this is the paper form, and this is the fabric form. My mum used to be a seamstress, so I guess a lot of my creative side kind of stems from her. Fabrics that I choose, I get them from Japan. I choose like really unique, standout, vivid, bold prints that are different to anything else that you've seen. I'm one of those people, I'm never ever happy with what I do. So I'll make it, and I think I always have to have someone reassure my pieces for me still. And I think that's something that eventually I hope that I would be able to overcome. When you create something or you are an artist, you kind of almost slow time down. You're in your own little kind of world, your own little bubble. And mentally, I think it's great for everyone.
It's really quite an instant thing for me now, where suddenly, as soon as I start throwing, there's a sort of switch off in my brain where it's like just a more relaxed state, I guess.
There is an absorption in it which I think is quite healthy, even if it's not like it's for hours and hours, but you know, and that kind of repetitious nature of it, I think, is good for me.
This is pretty much as it was, and I think it's amazing. It's that thing that people talk about in sport a lot, which is flow. You get to the point where you are in a flow state, you are in the moment, responding, and you know, it's frustrating, things don't work, and you think you've made something work, and then it collapses on you. But it's so enjoyable and enriching, I think.
In a way, my art has saved me. It's given me a purpose, and it's my therapy, and it has kept me going, because I wake up every morning and my head is full of ideas, and I'm focused, and I've got something to aim towards, and it's just my way of just keep going.
We are doing all of this completely voluntary in our own time because we love doing it. But sometimes we don't love doing it because it's a nightmare. And we tear our hair out and go, why are we doing this again? I'm looking for something because most of it's already come down and I've got a bit missing. Probably not what everyone wants to see.
All right?
Yep.
1, 2, 3. That's it. Well done.
Oh my God, look.
It's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah. Quite sexy.
One of them definitely over here.
Yeah, these are quite light anyway.
Oh yeah, they're
It's just it's that height. Yeah.
so lovely. When the visitors come round the trail, there's a couple of different reasons. One main reason is to see the art and the work. The other reason is to have a good look in someone's house. I personally, when I used to go to other arts trails, I loved going into people's houses because I would look and think, oh my goodness, I love this house. I really like the way they've done this.
Oh, that's the story of the house. That's really nice. You've done a great job, guys.
The people that come to the arts trail will have an appreciation of something not being mass produced, and with pottery it's all unique, it's all, you know, you're never going to get two exactly the same because the kiln does funny things sometimes, the glaze will react differently, the clay might dry differently, and you know, everything's different. So I think there are a lot more people now that do definitely appreciate that.
The first year I did it, it was very surprising because I'd only ever made stuff for friends and family. So they commissioned me to do this one, and they really liked Elizabeth I. So what I wanted to do was, because I always like to have a bit of fun. It was lovely to be brave enough to open my house, show the stuff, and people come in, make wonderful comments, people buy stuff.
Waiting for it.
Some people will come in, walk around, go straight out the door. Some people sit on the sofa and spend half hour here looking around.
So how long would it take you to make one of these?
That's probably a good few weeks full time. So, yeah. I've only got a little house, and Kate, my wife, usually works one room, I work the other, and we find it works really well. He's become sort of like an alter ego, so I can live through him. I could do things that maybe I'm not brave enough to do. Now I'm proud enough of my work that I'm not looking for validation, so I could quite happily show all my stuff on the next arts trail, and if nobody buys anything, I would still love meeting all those people and chatting to them.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
You've had your hair cut and style.
Ready for the arts train.
We've got some die-hard fans who have been coming every year since we started, even if they just come to say hello. So there's a whole mix. There's a lot of young families who go around, and because we have our little stamp sheet where you collect a stamp at each venue, that's great because it gives the adults something to give the children to do.
I never really do it for money, and when you do sell it, it's a bonus, just mainly to have someone have your work in their house more than what they pay for it.
I think the Catford Arts Trail is a damn fine thing because it lets you know that there are local people who care about creativity, who care about art, who are prepared to open their houses and talk to you and be friendly. So while I'm sure a lot of them see it as a selling opportunity, it's not just about that. It's about making friends, seeing people, getting to know the local area.
Have a look round. It starts there, there's a couple out there. I think you leave people to respond. Some people want more information, some people want to chat about it, but some people want to just come around and have a look. you are trying to say something and suggest something and make people think differently. And then it's what they do with that. How does that connect with their lives, their experience, their cultural upbringing? What do they see in it? Do they think it's ridiculous? Do they think it's funny? Does it connect with them in another way?
I think this is really good because it makes art accessible to lots of people who wouldn't usually get it, because they can just walk down their street and, like us today, will just wander into someone's home or someone's front garden and see like all these cool creations being made just around the corner from them.
This is me, and this is Mimi Roberta, and here is Fiona.
This one's in progress, so maybe don't touch that one. So and then I'm also doing like little bits of weaving, so if anybody wants to have a go.
The artists are really welcoming, talking about their work, how they made their stuff, almost a part of their journey. The people that know about the art trail, who followed it all around, and people like me that accidentally find it, and then we bump into our friends and then tell them about it. I'm going to go out and buy some stuff in a moment.
There's a photograph from the train going up to Scotland.
Okay.
And this was where my parents used to live, Settlescombe. And here, Bride Hill.
Another Catford Arts Trail.
When I feel like it's like finished, then I put it onto burnout paper, which is what the giclée process, which is like
That's really, really lovely. Unfortunately, the walls weren't working. Everything fell off.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
It's always nice meeting the artists themselves and actually buying it kind of directly from the artists rather than, just from a shop where it's a bit more less personal.
We've bumped into some artists afterwards as well, kind of like around the area, and chatted to them afterwards. So yeah, it's been quite cool.
I really enjoy it. It's something we look forward to every year. It's just a nice occasion to get everyone out and about.
I enjoy seeing and meeting new people and what they're able to make and all of their creations.
Anyhow, they call me the shed man for some reason.
Hi Michael, nice to meet you. You're the artist.
Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
What is art? Art's a very subjective matter. What I consider art, you may not consider art.
Art gives people a release to do something for themselves, and I think if they're doing it for themselves, if somebody likes it, that's sort of kind of like a byproduct.
It's another way of being able to express yourself. If you're not very eloquent speaking, or you're not particularly literate writing, you can still be the most amazing artist and tell your story or put your point of view across through that.
Now look at this way, in Catford there are all sorts of people, all different races, the lot. So art is a way of bringing everyone together, unity.
Catford
Catford is not fixed, it's not decided. There's still a lot to be done and chosen and changed. And I think artists love the fact that they can put their stamp on it, they can make a mark.